Well, guys, welcome back to the Fi Guys podcast. Today we're talking about what is Fi and what is the Fi lifestyle. What is Fi, though? You want to give us the explanation on that?
Yeah, of course, Dom. FI stands for financial independence. What that really means is taking control of your own life. Unfortunately, the typical American way of doing things is that you kind of get yourself into debt, or you make money, you spend all your money, you make more money, you spend all your money, and you're just living this debt, rinse, repeat, debt, rinse, repeat over and over and over again.
Paycheck to paycheck kind of lifestyle, right?
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that is, we're not taught anything in school. I know I certainly wasn't. So I had to figure out a lot of things myself, and that's the reason we're here today, is for us to talk, me to help you, and have all of our listeners also listen into our private conversation and hopefully be able to take something away from it.
I love that. Yeah, I love that this isn't a teaching lesson. This is just, we're just talking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the student, you're the master, trying to figure it out, and you guys are just like a fly on the wall, but you're here to learn something, I'm here to learn something, maybe even Chris is here to learn something. I don't know.
I'm always here to learn.
I love it. Yeah, the key is you gotta have a learning mindset, so I love that. So getting into our questionnaire for today, we talked about what is the typical American path, make money, spend money, have no money left over.
Yep.
What is the promise of financial independence?
Well, it's really about living your life to the fullest. And it's about putting you in control, or putting you in the driver's seat, so that you're no longer at the whims of your lifestyle or what might happen to you on the day-to-day. Unfortunately, there's a pretty scary statistic out there that most Americans can't handle a $400 emergency.
Oof.
So, what that means to you is, imagine you're driving down the street and, here in Arizona, you get a blowout because it is so darn hot on the roads.
It's toasty. It's like 118 today, it feels like.
It is. It's bad.
It's bad.
But for, unfortunately, majority of Americans, that is a drop everything and
max your credit cards out and,
Yeah, if you even have a credit card at that point.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah. No, that's very interesting. Okay, yeah. So what you're saying is the promise of financial independence is basically like taking control of your life, putting yourself in a position where you don't have to worry about money, you don't have to worry about random incurred expenses, stuff like that, and basically just living a fulfilled life of less stress about money, because most people worry about money.
Yeah, it's unfortunately one of the biggest stresses, and it's going to be on a spectrum. Our audience is going to be anywhere from a Henry, which is a high-earning entrepreneur, not rich yet, to someone who is close to retirement. So, this really runs the gamut. And of course, what we're going to talk about is going to listen, or people are going to hear it differently depending on where they are in that stage of life. But I can assure you that if you're able to focus on how much you're making, how much you're spending, and then focus on that spread, or what's the difference in that, and how much are we saving, that savings rate dictates everything when it comes to financial independence and living an abundant life.
Okay. So what's like the first step towards, financial independence, or FI? I had to throw that out. Anytime I get a chance to mention FI, I'm going to do it in such a corny way. So just,
Please.
Sorry about that in advance, guys, but
Please
it's coming.
do.
I'm a very corny individual. But what's the first step towards financial independence?
Well, there's a multitude of different steps. My first one that I like to tell people, if someone ever comes to me and they say, Chris, I've seen you, really advance your life, and it seems like you're living a pretty cool life. How do you do it? The first way I always test to see if someone's actually serious about it, or if they're just asking me to talk for the sake of talking, is I tell them, track your expenses. You need to know how much money is going out every month. Kind of going back to what the typical American does, they have no idea what their expenses are. When I typically sit down with a client, I'll ask them, what do you typically spend on a month-to-month basis? Of course, I'm not expecting that most of my prospects or clients are going to say, I spend $4,300.
Yeah, down to the penny. Yeah.
There are some. I meet some people who are to that, and that's usually great. But most people have no idea. They'll shoot a number in the dark, anywhere from, it's probably like $100 to $200, and I go, no, it's not.
No, it's many multiples higher, I'm sure.
And unfortunately, I've been doing this for a long time as a financial advisor, and I've never once had someone tell me that their number is $10,000 when they're only spending $5,000. Most people shoot far, far below what they think they're spending.
Interesting. And I guess nowadays it's a lot easier because there's apps out there that can track your spending. You hook up your bank accounts. I know the one that I'm using right now, it's called Mint, I believe, and it tracks like everything. It tracks like my bank account, my investments, If I had rental properties, it checks like the value of the house and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend that. I don't know if you've ever used like Intuit by Mint. I think
Yeah,
it's-
yep. Mint is one that I got started with a long time ago. You know what I ended up doing for myself and my wife is I just created a Google app. So I just created a Google spreadsheet, went through and I made it individualized to my wife and I, so we can see how much we're each individually spending, how much we're spending on things that are fixed costs, like our house, our cars, our insurance, and how much is for frivolous expenses, things that we don't need. So, you know, of course, like my pets are going to be in things that are going to be, no matter what, we are going to spend this money.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that, you know, if stuff really does hit the fan, my wife loses her job, I, for some reason, fire myself and no longer bringing in income, that I know I can cut myself down to bare bones and be just completely fine, which unfortunately, most people, they have no idea where that number is for them.
Damn, that's so interesting. I never thought about like figuring out what like each individual's like number is. So it's like, okay, at the bare minimum, if I cut off everything and no more internet, no more Netflix, none of that, what's my number to just survive? I feel like even I don't know like what my bare number is for just survival.
Yeah.
I know like profit and rough expenses, but the bare bones minimum. That's interesting. I don't think anyone's ever talked about that.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about.
I love it.
You know, and that's something that, you know, our listeners can continue to listen in. We're going to talk about so many different things here. And, you know, you and myself, we're also going to I'm going to put up some of my own money as we talk about new things, because I'm constantly learning as well, you know, to let you know, hey, I tried this. This wasn't a fruitful venture for me. I want to be sure that, you know, everyone that's listening, they're not just seeing that we're talking about deprivation of your lifestyle. Because unfortunately, FI gets again financial independence.
Yeah, let's go. It's gonna be like a little ding every time.
Ding,
ding.
It unfortunately gets a really bad rap because a lot of people think we're talking about deprivation. That you're constantly just living this life of how much money can I scrape and how much money can I spend.
Penny
pinching, and
clipping,
you know, every time your friends invite you out, oh, sorry, I can't do that because I'm pinching every penny.
Yeah.
For some future date. You know, when I'm 40 and I have the money, then guess what? I'm going to go hard. I'm going to spend. And I'm going to be able to retire.
Yeah.
I can tell you from personal experience, the day that you hit your financial independence number, nothing changes.
Yeah.
If you don't work on your investment psychology, that's never going to go away, and you're going to have the same issues over and over and over again.
I think down the line, I think it would be a really good podcast episode to talk about the psychology of money and finance and stuff like that. Because a lot of it is just mindset, you know?
Yep.
It's really, it's all in the mind. Like there's so many battles that are won and lost just directly in the mind. I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, money psychology and then setting up a process. That's what I found was the most important thing for people is setting up a process that is reoccurring, automated, and as simple as you can, because when you put your mind into it, we as humans, we're dictated by fear and greed, and we make very silly decisions.
That's true. Logic-based decisions are better than probably emotion-based decisions. When it comes to money, that doesn't care about how you think. You know, it's all business with money.
Yeah, and that's what I studied when I went to college. I graduated magna cum laude from Cal State Long Beach in psychology. You know, when I originally went to school, I wanted to be a marriage and family therapist. But you know, unfortunately, until you don't let you do your internship to your fourth year, and that's when I realized, oh, maybe this isn't for me, because I saw a lot of people who wanted to complain about their partners, but never actually make the changes to improve their lives.
Gotcha.
So, you know, luckily I was able to find finance, and I may have been able to merge these two things, you know, and be able to help people from a financial independence realm while focusing so much on the money psychology things.
Okay.
Because that is such a big part of it.
Absolutely. No, I think you have a very specialized knowledge of the finance and the psychology background, which I absolutely love. But we've talked about, you know, how to track your money, first steps to becoming financially independent, tracking your income, tracking your expenses, seeing what the real numbers are, as well as finding your bare bones number. How much do I need to survive? You know, food, water, all that stuff.
Yeah, and just to add to that, one more thing, Dom. So if you're listening to this, you're like, I don't know how to spend my money. I don't know how to do that. I don't want to download some app. Write it down. Or what you could do is just at the end of the month, go to your debit statement, go to your credit statement, see how much money left your account that month.
True.
That's your number.
True.
And now the other important thing that I see, unfortunately, far too often is people will say, "Oh, well, that's just a one-time expense. My registration, that doesn't count."
Yeah.
As you track this, after you track it for a year, even if there are those one-off expenses of, "Oh, well, I broke my arm, so of course I had to pay for the insurance," that's just going to happen in life.
Yeah.
So if you don't have anything, what I typically do, if my number each year is $30,000, I add 15%.
Okay. For miscellaneous.
For miscellaneous, whatever.
Okay.
And that way I know that's my minimum number plus 15%. And it gives me a little bit of buffer in case stuff really does hit the fan, I'm okay. And I know that, and I can go on for a few years without any new source of income. Obviously, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's always good to have that control.
No, I think that's really interesting. So what would people do? Because most people overspend. And for the people who overspend, not calling anyone out in particular, don't worry, you can stay over there. What do you do if you are overspending? You're spending more than you make.
Well, that's going to be a pretty difficult thing to figure out.
Because that has to do with psychology a lot.
It does have to do with psychology. I can talk from my standpoint. Growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. I grew up in San Diego, which I know everyone thinks San Diego is amazing. And San Diego is amazing. Please don't take that away from it. But I grew up near the military base. My dad was a Marine. My mom was in the Army. They were both enlisted. My parents had no idea what they were doing with money. They unfortunately were living the paycheck to paycheck life. We made money, we spent money, we made money, we spent money.
But they're good people.
Of course they're good
the best
people.
Yeah. I think that's what a lot of things happen in life. It's like the best of people, they never got a shot financially. They were never taught. But it's like this beautiful thing we have now. We have a podcast where we can spread the word of financial independence, ding, and let the good people who deserve to retire in their 50s or whenever they want or earlier or 40s or whenever, giving them a shot out rather than just worrying about, their military pension like your parents or Social Security that may or may not be there in however many years, because you have to take personal responsibility for your actions.
Yeah.
And that's what the podcast is all about.
It's all about taking ownership of your life. It's one of the hardest things to do in life is to take that ownership, no matter what happened to you, to say, this is on me. While it may not be what you got, the cards you got dealt in life, it's not your fault, but you need to be the one to pick them up and do something with it.
Yeah. No, 100%. No, that's spot on. So what are some ideas for making money in the future? We got point number 9 here. We got a lot of points up for today's podcast, but for point number 9, what are some ideas for making more money? So focusing on passive income or...
Yeah, and that's certainly something we're going to talk about in future episodes. I don't want to kind of dive into everything right now. But yes, passive income is a huge strategy for financial independence. What we want to do is put our work in at the beginning and then be able to have that money pay dividends. Tim Ferriss put it great in his book, The 4-Hour Work Week. It's a bit dated now, but that concept really stuck with me, and being able to create content or whatever it is that just continues to pay you while you sleep. For me as a financial advisor, it's, I focus a lot on the markets and in having your money invested. You're very aware of that as well, so that every time you're going to sleep, your money is continuing to make money. Are we going to have ups and downs? Yes, but on the long term, you are going to be far better than if you just got all your money and stuck it under a mattress.
Or in a savings account.
In a savings account, or worse, you never saved anything, which is unfortunately where most people are at right now.
Yeah.
So if you are spending more money than you are making, this is kind of a hair on fire situation. We need to either, and this is kind of comes back to the deprivation thing. I don't want you to live a life of deprivation. To any one of our listeners, to you, yourself, Dominic, this is about living a full life. So what I would say is, what are the things that you're spending your money on the most? You've got to track that. Are these things adding value to your life? I can, for most people, assure them that if they look at the things they're spending money on, there was no thought into making that purchase, and they maybe have gotten a moment of gratitude from having it. But on the long-term perspective, looking back a month, there's like, oh, that was a dumb purchase. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, and we all have that. We all have that.
Of course we do.
Yeah. No, I think that's, gosh, yeah, that's true. That is very true. And it's funny, it's interesting. We're talking about like, whatever cards you're dealt, you have to pick up the cards and you have to do something with them. And it's interesting financial independence, and the independence part is independence from, you don't need your 9 to 5, you don't need Social Security, you don't need the pension. Those things are great, those things are necessary sometimes, but you want to be outside of the system. You want to be above everything. You want to be, the whole world could cave in, and you're like, oh, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I got my money. I got my, you don't have to worry about bills coming in or, money coming in, because you're independent. You're financially independent.
Yeah. And remember, it's on a spectrum, right? So maybe the person who is listening to this who says, I can't, Chris, this all sounds well and good, and Dom, you seem like you're a nice person, but I'm only making $30,000 a year. We might have to make some hard choices about, are you living in the right place for you? Do you own a home or do you own an apartment or something like that? Do you have to downsize? Do you have to make some hard decisions to be able to take control of your life? For someone who's at that level, just having $1,000 to $2,000 in your bank account is going to free up so much mental bandwidth of the what ifs. What if the tire pops? What if little Timmy falls down a well and he breaks his leg?
Yeah.
These things. But for someone who is beyond that point, maybe someone just graduated from college and they're finally bringing a paycheck and they don't have to worry about that. I want to be able to try to focus on them as well and make sure that they know, as life continues to unfold, your lifestyle does not need to keep pace with how much money you're making. That is one of the scariest things that that's what loses most people money. It's lifestyle inflation.
Lifestyle inflation, interesting. Yeah, I think that happens a lot with like NBA players, sports figures, and stuff like that. They make a lot of money and their lifestyle increases, and then they get out of the NBA and they continue to have that same lifestyle versus investing it, saving it, planning for the future.
Yeah. To your earlier point, it's about psychology. If you're not taught from a young age how to use this money or how to use it wisely, you're never going to be able to figure it out without somebody sitting there helping you and kind of holding your hand. And that's what we're here to do, is to help our listeners to hopefully be that guiding voice for them, so that they don't make the same decisions that I made. I didn't have a great upbringing when it came to finances. I was just very lucky in that I was naturally a frugal person. And I think a lot of that came from watching my parents struggle to make ends meet. And I knew that if they had more money, it wouldn't be such an issue.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my investor psychology. I just kept on keeping money. But I never invested it, because what I learned as a kid is that investing money is gambling.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until years and years later, almost a decade of experience myself, investing in the markets and investing other people's money, that I've been able to figure out some pretty good strategies that work out really well on the long term, while also focusing on the investor psychology and making sure that someone understands their plan and they have a long-term time horizon, so that you can have anything you want. We just need to have a plan to get you there.
I love that. Well, I think that'll be probably it for our today's podcast. Do you have any last thoughts, final words?
Yeah, I think I just always wanted to let people know, choosing to accept the path of financial independence, it's not about deprivation for today or deprivation of today for tomorrow. It's about living your rich life today while thinking about tomorrow. It's about taking more control of your life, less stress, more abundance. And please just don't listen to what we have to say here and never take any action on it. Just ask yourself today, what is one tiny thing I can do to improve my situation, and then go make it happen. Also, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss a future episode, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys. Bye.